how do we continue to really encourage diversity and ensure diversity as we're building this new civilization, this new system?
I think I'd want to make one correction. It's not just that it's diversity, it's that it's integration, right? If we just have everything the same, you don't have enough integration. There's not enough variation in the system. And if you have just an emphasis on diversity, then you end up with so many different points of view but no integration. That doesn't work either. You want to have something which is essentially an integration of enough diversity that essentially you have really encountered reality. If you're trying to solve a problem and you only understand part of what the problem is because you've only exposed yourself to that, you haven't learned the language of the solution. You haven't become a fit vehicle to receive and perceive what a solution would look like. So in effect, part of it is that by embracing diversity, by embracing other points of view, we encounter the language of the problem space, and we become the kinds of people, we become the kinds of individuals that when we have the insight, we can grasp that feeling and turn it into a form. We can write down the answer because we know the language of the problem space. We have made ourselves an expert in the kind of spaces that a solution exists in. Without going through the work of actually having the encounter with the problem, without having exposed yourself fully to the nature of what the real situation is. You know, we talked about Brett earlier, about a person that has deep evolutionary biological experience. He's a person that I view as crucial to informing me about the kinds of issues that occur at a biological level, because without accounting for those kinds of things, our solutions are incomplete. We, in a sense, need to understand the full ramifications of the problem, which means that we need to have omni-consideration. Means we've got to basically see from enough perspectives so that we can combine and synthesize something that our intuition can actually speak to and that our intellect can grasp.
Daniel, you want to tune in? Daniel, Jordan, tune into this one.
So in biology, we have this topic of an adaptive landscape. So in a landscape, you've got multiple peaks and multiple valleys. So as nature's evolving and we see increased orderly complexity and kind of a movement of new emergent, more complex creatures, right? Like with humans kind of at the end of that chain so far. Viruses are still evolving too, right? Corals are still evolving too. There's a whole bunch of different things that are adaptive. And then there's some things that are not adaptive. The same is going to be true in the future of civilization. It's not going to be a homogeneous, here is the worldview, or here is the aesthetic that everyone has. There will be an adaptive landscape of a number of ways of being, a number of aesthetics, a number of ways of thinking about things and problem solving that are all adaptive, that are all functional, that all meet the necessary and sufficient criteria for a civilization that's viable. And that means that there can be meaningful relationship across them, right? Not just inexorable and unrecoverable dysfunction between them. So it's like, do we want diversity? Well, the kinds of diversity that lead to inexorable breakdown and conflict, we don't want, right? But there's a truth part in those elements that we need to be able to hold. The kinds of diversity that lead to multiple perspectives that lead to synergy and emergence is critical. So synergy across a bunch of the same thing doesn't really happen. Right? Synergy across homogeny, you don't get very much emergent property. So this is a key dynamic. One thing I would say about it is, so how do we seek out different perspectives? We have a friend who just did his PhD dissertation on studying higher stages of human development, which as soon as you even say that, it bothers people, right? What does it mean, higher stage? And yet development isn't nothing, right? And one of the key things that he identified was something that had been previously thought to be a key definer, which was perspective taking. The ability to take multiple perspectives was less relevant than perspective seeking. The predisposition to seek lots of perspectives, and then the capacity to actually do it well, and then the ability to synthesize across those. But the most critical part that they identified was the impetus to actually seek other perspectives. So this is important. One thing else I'll say about it is it's hard. Notice how many times it's happened for you where someone has a worldview that actually bugs the shit out of you, right? Where there's something that you feel is sacred, that it seems like their worldview doesn't care about and could even damage, and you're just willing to, inside, go to war with them. Yeah. But again, we just define that moving forward, all wars are lose-lose. So what does it mean to be like, Okay, so how do I deal with this? So one thing I would say is to just actually sit in that we have to and figure it out is a part of it.
I'm going to actually piggyback on one thing.
Jordan's been burning here, and we want to move on. So do you have a quick 30-second ad?
If you want.
Move on?
You've got lots. I've got lots. I'd rather keep
You
more
got
questions.
something
Two
burning, don't you,
sentences.
Forrest?
There are no necessary value conflicts. Daniel was just asking a question. If you have somebody that seems that they value something that you don't, there's no aspect of those values which necessarily are mutually exclusive. Have that as an idea and try it out. See where you go.